Pacific Youth Network, and we are going to have our first climate smart webinars today. So I'm happy to have two guests today. We have Rita from the Global Disaster Prepared Centers and also Jaren from Water Room. So first of all, let me introduce our group first, and then we will give you some little concepts about climate change and also disaster risk reduction, and then we will have our guests to share their own stories. So we are from IFRC. So IFRC is the world's largest humanitarian network, and they act before and after the disaster and health emergencies to meet the needs and improve the lives of the vulnerable people. So you may have heard about IFRC, ICRC, and some like Red Cross Society or Red Crescent Society. Actually, we make up with these groups to form the International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement. So hope you will join our lecture later to join our biggest humanitarian network. So for climate change working group, we established last year, and we try to hope that we can respond more to the climate change issues in the Asia Pacific region. And then we hope that we can enhance the youth understanding of climate change and also advocate them to do some climate actions. And we have done a lot of activities in the past 2 years, like different interactive talks and also some social media campaign, and also we are doing some ongoing research. We hope that we can have more capacity building, knowledge transfer and experience sharing, as well as some youth engagement and climate action advocacy. So in the IFRC, we also have a LCRC strategy on youth-led climate action. We hope that we can have create some meaningful climate actions through raising the awareness, taking some action, and also doing more on the advocacy. So if you would like to know more about the IFRC strategy on the youth-led climate action, you can refer to this website or just Google it, and then you can find our documents. So today, our topic is about climate change. I know that we have a lot of experience participants here, but then because our target is also some youth who may not know much about these topics, so I would like to just briefly talk about it. So for the climate change, we always hear some words like mitigation, adaptation, or resilience. So how can we classify them, or actually what are they talking about? So for the mitigation, actually we are talking about how we can prevent the greenhouse gas emission. So or some enhance the carbon sink. So for example, for the governments, they promote some public transport or have some wind energy. These are kind of climate mitigation work, while for the climate adaptation, we hope that to reduce the vulnerability to the impact of the climate change, like the extreme weather event pattern or sea level rise. So maybe how we can improve the crops growth, or have some how we can improve the water environment. And you can see that for some action, they actually fit into both the mitigation and also the adaptation. For example, deforestation, how we can build more trees. Actually, it can help to prevent, reduce the carbon gas. At the same time, it can also like prevent the landslides. So it can fit both in the climate mitigation and also the climate adaptation. And then for the climate resilience, for this words resilience, we talk about how we can absorb the disturbance and also make ourselves have a better not to be collapsed. So for the climate resilience, we're talking about the capacity of the community or environments. They can manage the climate impact. If they have a good resilience, the they will not be affected so much by the climate hazard, and then it no longer become a disaster to the community. And then another important concept for us is the disaster risk reduction. So, you may heard about a lot about disaster management, disaster risk reduction. What are we talking about? So, for the disaster management, we're talking about organization, planning, and application of the measures to prepare for, respond to, and recover from the disaster. So, we know that there is a disaster cycle where the event will happen at that time, and then the different bodies or agency have to respond and then recover, and then we'll try to have some work to mitigate and then prepare for the next disasters. While for the disaster risk reduction, we are talking about some measure to aim at preventing new and reducing the existing disaster risk. So here you can see the formula. Actually, when we have some natural hazard, it doesn't mean that we will have the disaster. So when we have the hazard and increasing the exposures and also increasing the vulnerability, and then we don't have that high capacity to deal with the problem, it will become the risk. And then for the climate smart disaster risk reduction, we are talking about how we can use the climate information across the timescales in designing and also adjusting the programs. So when we do so, we are not placing the people at the increased risk. So just a very brief introduction of some concepts. So I know you are waiting for our guest sharing. So maybe I'll just introduce our first guest. So we are happy to have Rita from the Global Disaster Preparedness Center to join us today. So Rita started with the American Red Cross in 2019 as a disaster program manager. So she has extensive experience working collaboratively in disaster risk reduction with government partners, community-based organizations, and diverse communities. She served as a Peace Corps volunteer in Indonesia and holds a Master of Arts in Migration Studies from the University of San Francisco. Her professional experience has included teaching, working with asylum seekers, and advocating for linguistic rights through policy research. So thank you, Rita, for joining us today to share her experience. So without further ado, I would like to invite Rita to the floor to share with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Phoebe. I really appreciate your very kind introduction. Okay, I'm going to try to share my screen. Please bear with me. One second. Okay, I believe I should be able to share now. There we go. Okay, perfect. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Rita Ewing. I am the Design and Implementation Program Manager with the Global Disaster Preparedness Center. And it's an absolute pleasure getting to speak with you all today. I'm very excited to introduce the Teen Prep Kit, which was a labor of love between myself and a number of colleagues across the network, and of course, a number of wonderful, wonderful youth volunteers across the Red Cross and Red Crescent network as well. So I'm very excited to introduce this Teen Prep Kit with you all and go over what's included, and hopefully it excites you and gets you up and active, ready to prepare for hazards in your community. So first, I'd like to introduce a little bit about the Global Disaster Preparedness Center, and then I'll speak a little bit more about how this toolkit was developed, using really the power of this wonderful volunteer network that we have and wonderful youth engagement that we have across the globe. And then I'll go into more detail of what's included in the toolkit. So hopefully after this, you'll be able to access this toolkit on your own and be able to start getting active with disaster preparedness. So the the Global Disaster Preparedness Center, or GDPC, is a reference center between the American Red Cross and the IFRC that specializes in helping Red Cross and Red Crescent national societies prepare for hazards and mitigate the potential for disasters. So last year, the GDPC and the American Red Cross noticed a gap when it came to youth preparedness resources when it comes to teens. We saw often that teens are overlooked as their own unique demographic and are left to learn about preparedness through resources specifically for children or adults, which is totally irrelevant to this cool demographic of young people who are excited and engaged in a number of these different preparedness topics. So by not providing resources to help young people learn how to engage with disaster preparedness topics, it was leaving them underengaged and underprepared. So to address this gap, we developed the Teen Preparedness Toolkit, or the Teen Prep Kit for short, to expand preparedness resources for teens by working with teens across the Red Cross Red Crescent network to develop the content. So it is a free online resource page available on preparecenter.org. I'll drop a number of links in the chat after this presentation so you're able to explore it on your own. But the toolkit contains a light introduction to preparedness concepts, including a series of 6 modules on disaster risk reduction, emergency planning, climate change, health, wellness and resilience, and leadership and future building. These modules are to help teens engage in preparedness activities. So each module includes a introduction video on the topic, an activity card section available in multiple languages, and we're hoping to expand the languages available before the end of the year. So hopefully we'll have a few more languages on this toolkit. And then we also have an additional resources section. So acknowledging that there are a number of really awesome resources specifically for young people, specifically for teenagers already in existence. We wanted to make it super easy to learn and compile all of these cool resources in one central place. So each module kind of looks the same in the layout of what's provided. So I'll go over more of that in just a bit. But the intro videos and the additional resource sections of each module are intended to help you learn about the preparedness topics and explore related sources that are geared for teens and young people. The activity cards were designed by Red Cross Red Crescent Youth to help make preparedness content more approachable, easily digestible, and ultimately fun. After learning about these preparedness topics, these easy activities help young people learn how to practice taking preparedness actions by encouraging learners to step out of their comfort zones, work together, learn, and explore solutions to preparedness problems. So how was the toolkit made? In the spring of 2022, the GDPC and the American Red Cross began working with a local chapter in Los Angeles, California of the US. They were preparing to host a disaster preparedness youth camp called Ready Teens. Again, I'll send a link in the chat if you'd like to learn more about their camp. But over the course of their summer camp, participants learned about different disaster preparedness topics from local subject matter experts. The project was introduced at the beginning of the camp that they were to choose a preparedness topic and create an activity to teach other teens about this topic. The idea was to make learning more interactive and relatable so that future learners could feel like getting experience and becoming active in these topics is not so difficult and can be fun to learn how to prepare. And more relatable, since it's coming from other like-minded teens from across the globe. From the camp, we received many great activities that are included in this toolkit. And then after the camp wrapped up, we also partnered with the IFRC Solferino Academy's Limitless contestants. If you're not familiar with Limitless, I will also share a link in the chat, but it really is an amazing program that engages young people from across the network to help them to identify challenges in their local community and then partners them with a mentor on how to develop and implement local solutions. The program winners' projects are posted on the website, and I highly encourage you all to check them out because they're very inspiring. From the projects that were posted, we noticed a huge crossover between their work and the goal of the Teen Prep Kit, which was to help young people engage in these preparedness topics. So we went and sent a call to action out to the Limitless participants and had a great response in developing Teen Prep Kit activities related to their projects. So you can check out the activities on the Teen Kit and be able to see a number of Limitless project activities as well. And lastly, we sent out a huge call to action across the network for young people to develop activities. This was all virtual engagement with interested applicants. We then sent them packets on the topics to learn more about these preparedness themes, and they had a deadline to create an activity, and we received many really great responses. From there, we worked with volunteers to help craft the intro video scripts and the graphic design elements for the activity cards, websites, and videos. After working with our team of reviewers from across the network, we ended up with 22 really amazing activities, 6 videos for the Teen Prep Kit created by young people from across the American Red Cross, the Ecuadorian Red Cross, the Nepal Red Cross Society, and the Kenya Red Cross, and of course from Limitless as well. We had incredible support from the IFRC and the Climate Center, the Psychosocial Center, First Aid Reference Center, the Solferino Academy, and many, many more. And in February of this year, the Teen Prep Kit was officially launched. So we were really excited that it's coming up almost a year that this Teen Prep Kit has been live on Prepare Center. And so far, we're getting a lot of really engagement on the website. So we're really excited and hopeful that these activities and these resources are resonating well with young people across the globe. So what is included in the Teen Prep Kit? I would love to show you. So each, like I mentioned earlier, each one starts with a little intro video so you can get a quick background on these different topics. I don't know if you can actually hear these, but I just wanted to give a quick introduction of what these videos look like. So I'll stop it there. Hopefully that enticed you a little bit to learn more. But like I said, these intro videos are meant to do exactly that. Introduce the topics very briefly so that you can get an idea of what these big themes actually mean. And then you have the activities that you can check out. I'll click on English since it's a little bit easier. So with that, we have a number of different activities that were created by young people. And a quick example is they look like this. Hold on, I'll make them a little bit bigger. The title of the activity, what you will learn, quick step-by-step instructions. It tells you how long approximately it takes to complete this activity, what kind of resources are needed, and how difficult the activities are as well. And sometimes they have extra extra elements of the activities as well. So it's really cool to be able to explore these different topics and different activities to get engaged with these topics. And each topic has their own. So for disaster risk reduction, like the video said, there is no such thing as natural disasters. When disasters may not be naturally occurring, hazards are. So this module helps learners understand the difference between disasters and hazards. And by reviewing how disaster risk is determined, you'll be better able to identify what hazards are more likely to occur around you so that you're better equipped to prepare and mitigate the impacts of hazards from hopefully turning into a disaster. The next section is on emergency planning. And emergency planning follows disaster risk reduction because now that you've learned the difference between hazards and disasters and how to reduce disaster risks, this module looks more thoroughly into how to plan for emergencies. There are really 3 simple steps to emergency planning that can be applied to any hazard scenario. So the first is assess and plan. This includes like creating supply kits and plans for what to do if a hazard hits. Step 2 is to reduce your risks. Think of what actions you can take to prevent a bad situation from becoming worse. Like if you live in an earthquake zone, ensuring heavy objects are secured to the wall so that they're less likely to fall and injure somebody in the event of an earthquake. And lastly, step 3 is to prepare to respond. This can look like practicing emergency drills, knowing where you'll get emergency notifications, and getting trained in how to respond to disasters or getting trained in first aid, CPR, et cetera, before an emergency happens so that if a crisis happens, you're better prepared to know how to respond in these kind of events. The next section is on climate change. And like Phoebe covered earlier, we're hearing a lot about climate change all over the news, but sometimes it's confusing to understand what's happening. Why is climate change happening? What's the science behind it? How is it impacting us? So this module helps us to understand what's causing climate change, how it's impacting us, and what ways we have to be able to make collective impact to deal with the effects and to help stop further climate change. The next section is on health. And much like the emergency planning module, the health module helps us to understand the importance of learning the simple, life-saving skills to help in critical situations. Being trained in first aid and CPR, learning the importance of donating blood and helping out with blood donations, and encouraging water, sanitation, and hygiene programs and health initiatives at your school can help you and your community be better equipped to stay safe and healthy. So the second to last section is on wellness and resilience. And so while learning about disaster preparedness, it's also really important to take your mental health into and your well-being into account. Being a teen is definitely hard enough, but with added worries like climate change and disasters, it's really possible for teens and adults to develop feelings of anxiety, powerlessness, and being overwhelmed. So this module helps you to learn and practice healthy stress management and relaxation techniques that strengthen your inner resilience and protect your own well-being alongside of being able to support others. And then the last section is on leadership and future building. So across the globe, youth make up over 50% of Red Cross, Red Crescent volunteers. It's awesome to see. Youth volunteerism and leadership is integral in helping to tackle a wide range of humanitarian issues, regardless of whether you are just starting to learn more about these topics or you have years of experience. Your help will always be needed and will always be appreciated. So this module helps you to think about what you can do to help build disaster risk resilience. And that can range from helping your family create an emergency plan, volunteering in a blood drive with your local Red Cross or Red Crescent, to installing a community garden at your school. The options are limitless, really. Anyone at any age can be a change leader. You have the ability to take action, advocate for change, and make a difference. The possibilities of what you can do are truly endless. So thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to share the Teen Prep Kit. Like I said, I'll be dropping a lot of links into the chat in just a moment. So I hope that you're able to explore them on your own time. But it's been an absolute pleasure getting to present this to you all, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I really appreciate the topics you share, because we can see that it covered a lot of different issues, including disasters, climate change, and also the health and wellness. So if you guys are very interested in it, you can explore it in the link we'll share later. And then you can also try to use this toolkit in your own programs, and then I think it will be a very easier one to for us to engage the younger youth and also the children. So thank you, Rita. So I will then have our next speakers to share with us. So Jaron, who is from Water Room, social enterprise from Singapore, which provides the honest water solution for a better world. Water Room is founded in 2014, and it has partnered with over 60 humanitarian organizations like the Red Cross, World Vision to tackle pressing water issues in emergency and long-term development setting in over 40 countries. So Water Room is the UN Youth Young Leader for SDG 6, Clean Water for All, and they're also the winner of the recent Disaster Tech Awards 2023 for their room filter solution, which provide immediate safe drinking water through a simple and portable device. So let us invite Jaron to share with us. At the same time, if you have any comments or questions for us, you can just leave it in the chat box and we will try to answer it later. Thank you. So Jaron, it's your time. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for brief introduction. Yeah, I'm Jerome from Waterroom, so I'm very excited to share with you more about Waterroom's journey, and the journey we took over the past 9 years to really see how we can make a difference both in the disaster resilience aspect as well as in sustainability. So, all right, okay. So yeah, again, I'm from Waterroom, and by the end of the day, I aim to help you rally behind a cause that is much larger than you and I, a very pressing problem that the world faces and will continue to face, which is a world that currently has a lot of people without clean drinking water. Now, Waterroom we're on this journey to build a world without thirst, and we have the goal of impacting 30 million people by 2030. And this journey began 9 years ago when three like-minded young people came together and designed a portable ceramic filter in a plastic bag. So you can see over here, the dirty water goes in and then immediately produces clean water. That plastic bag filter then went on to help about 4,500 people affected by the 2015 Nepal earthquake. And when CNBC caught wind of our product, we went on to sell thousands of these globally. And it made strides around the world, but as we went down to the ground with our partners, Singapore Red Cross, Relief Singapore, we observed how people use the products and we got their feedback. And we thought to ourselves that okay, this is a good start, but it's not good enough, not for us at least. The biggest complaint that we received is that the flow rate was really slow because you're only depending on gravity within a small bag, so there's not enough pressure to drive water through. So it's very slow. Maybe it produced 1 liter after an hour. On top of that, we weren't really satisfied with the protection offered by ceramic technology. It's affordable but not very reliable, and we weren't confident that this would be the game changer, right? So it's better than nothing, but we wanted to do so much more. So that was 8 years ago. Since then, we've innovated, we've listened to the market. We have gone through various iterations and realized, okay, how do we develop solutions? And after talking to various organizations, and then we develop solutions. So this is our current range, of course, a few others as well. And along the way, we've amassed the support from Singapore, from regional bodies like the ASEAN Association of Southeast Asian Nations, from international bodies like the World Economic Forum, World Health Organization, and as mentioned before, the United Nations. So our team won this support with a combination of vision to build a world without thirst, heart for humanity, communication with stakeholders, and innovative design to solve a problem. Did I mention that most of our team were engineers? And this is the problem. Beyond the global water issue, is that every year the world experiences about 300 disasters. So that's like 15 earthquakes, 80 cyclones, and 200 floods. So that's and what that does, it cuts off water supply to about 130 million people. Now, when supply lines are disrupted and water sources are contaminated, everyone still needs to drink about 2 liters of water a day to live. And you can't survive 3 days without water, we all know that. But did you know that actually it's estimated that 40% of deaths that happen during the acute emergency phase is caused by diarrhea? And the diarrhea is caused by unclean food, unclean water. Now, let me take you through the perspective of the humanitarian organizations that are involved in this disaster response and recovery. Right, in a major disaster setting like a flood or an earthquake, the rescue operations will be carried out to carry victims over to very overcrowded IDP camps, internally displaced people camps. And this whole process is really messy. And now the disaster response team is faced with the daunting task of assessing the needs and solutions that are required. So for water, they're asking questions like, how many people are there? How much water do we need? When can we get it? How much does it cost? A lot of stuff. Basically, it makes them really stressed out because they're really trying to provide the best solutions and provide the best care in such a short amount of time to a huge number of people who are also, really stressed out as well. So one of the so-called easiest ways, right, to solve this problem is with bottled water. I say easy because it is safe, well, typically safe, fast, generally available, and easily distributable, but it is logistically very intensive. You have to ship tons of water every day, and it generates a lot of waste and it's very expensive. Now, the other option, you can bring in water tankers. So these are like trucks. They bring in large volumes of water, thousands of liters of water, but it only works if you have good roads, uh, a functioning water treatment supply nearby that wasn't destroyed, and of course, again, logistical management. Imagine having to have so many trucks all coming in and out. You really need very good management on the ground itself. If you have existing unclean water sources on the ground itself, you can treat them. And we've seen some organizations bring in so-called portable water solutions, but you can see actually this is the size of a shipping container. And all this requires, like a pump and then various things to set up. And the challenge here is that although you can provide high quality water, they are pretty complex to operate, a lot of machinery. You need trained engineers, you need electricity, you need chemicals. A lot of these things are not readily available on a disaster setting. And on top of that, because it's so large scale, it's actually really expensive. I know of organizations that have purchased things like these and then they only use it once every like maybe 5 to 10 years, and there's like 20 disasters during that time scale, but they can only use it for one because it does not justify the cost of bringing it out, sadly, even though people are suffering. Now you can see the challenge here is that the humanitarian organizations, they face this uncertain situation and growing needs, and it makes it very difficult to commit to any one solution because each solution has different drawbacks. And they are miracle workers that can design solutions on the spot, right? They're trying to save people. So, and we learned this after talking to many humanitarian organizations like Red Cross, Red Crescent, World Visions, and we found that they valued simplicity, flexibility, and cost efficiency. So we designed a solution for them. Okay, so this video showcases our WHO evaluated product, the Room Filter Plus, which is a community-based solution that can be carried by one person but impacts 200 people. And together with this, we've also developed family-based and individual sizes. Now, the filter works very simply. It works like a bicycle pump, right? You pull up the handle to draw in water and then push it down to produce the filtered water, right? Even children can use this. And this was done in Bangladesh with the Rohingya refugees. Now, on the inside, we use industrial-grade hollow fiber membranes that are typically used in large treatment plants. And they are basically is a physical method of removing bacteria, viruses, and suspended solids. So we don't need to use any chemicals. It makes it very simple to use. So basically, once the filter gets clogged, that's when you know you can't really use it. It doesn't degrade or break over time. We also incorporated a simple maintenance procedure, which is activated by opening the drain valve, this red little switch here, and then doing the same bicycle pump motion. Right. On top of that, the filter is flexible. It can be used with a solar pump, or it can be used with an elevated water tank. Doesn't require a very high tank to produce enough pressure. So in post-disaster recovery cases, when there is infrastructure available, people don't have to manually pump the system anymore, right? So it becomes flexible in the use case. So with that, we've been able to combine the simplicity and flexibility of single-use bottled water with the longevity and sustainability of a large-scale treatment solution. And of course, in terms of our lifetime costs, so when you want to design solutions, you also need to think about, how does it outcompete its competitors and the current solutions. So you look at things like lifetime cost, you talk about the value it brings in terms of portability is very important in disaster setting. You also want to talk about the cost, the initial capital outlay for it. Definitely a lot cheaper than a large scale system. A lot more portable, how it compares against even competitors. And then also, if you're starting up a new innovation, you want to find places to test it out. But once you're able to test it out, remember to capture those case studies. Because like even for us, we've sent out, about 1,000 units to over 10 major disaster responses, including the Vanuatu cyclone. Right, so these are distributed to various islands after the cyclone hit them in 2020. We also sent it out to the recent Turkey earthquake earlier this year. And we also use it in protracted refugee crises. Like this is the refugees that are on the borders of Myanmar because of the military takeover that happened there. And also in the Ukraine war. So because of the flexibility and portability of our products, they are ideal for emergencies, disasters, and remote areas where centralized water treatment isn't an option. Of course, we are not just going to stop there. Beyond that, we're also looking towards the next phase and how we can, take advantage of new opportunities out there, especially in the green market and the carbon credit space. So this is also related to climate change and also related to disaster response. So the way this works is that right now there's a bit of a crackdown in terms of what does it mean to generate carbon credits and carbon offsets, right? Okay, brief introduction. Carbon offsets basically, let's say you are polluting the environment by doing activities that release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So then you want to offset that by doing other activities that either capture carbon, right, or reduce or rather replace the need for carbon emitting activities elsewhere. So what we're trying to do here is that whenever you boil water, in a lot of countries, developing countries, if you boil water, that uses up fuel, that uses up wood, and that creates a lot of carbon dioxide. So instead of doing that, we have a water filter instead that prevents that substitutes the need for boiling water, because you boil the water to carry out bacteria. Our filters already do that. And then from there, you generate the carbon offset, and then it turns into carbon credits that corporate funders will then purchase to sustain our existing water projects and create new ones, right? At the same time, reducing carbon emissions on the whole. So we've actually been testing this out. We've actually been able to use our filters with solar panels. We've actually used it with data sensors. So we've been able to use these data centers to track the performance of filter, the location of them, as well as how much water is being produced. Because when you know how much water is produced, that's where you generate your carbon offsets. And now for us, the next step is just to really put all this into one package so that you can really increase the sustainability and accountability of anyone that uses our filter, whether it's in remote areas or even in disaster settings. So the future is very exciting for us. We see a lot of potential here in the green space, and I think the lesson I really want to bring across to you is to design solutions that solve problems, but beyond that, even after they solve problems, look beyond and see how you can continue to innovate and improve. To at first, so we started out with wanting to help people get clean water, and then we try to figure out how do we improve that and get more people on board. How do we get more corporates on board? How do we design solutions that everyone else is happy with? And because of that, we now find ourselves in this place where we believe with your support, we can actually make this goal of 30 million by 2030 reality. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Aaron. So I really appreciate your teamwork on providing the safe water to many people in the vulnerable setting. And then because I'm staying in the medical field, and I really can feel that many people suffering from diarrhea, and we know that is have a very high mortality in the children. So thank you so much for working on this area and also thinking beyond, like how to do the offset of the carbon. And I think that it really a very good product. Thank you for your sharing. So let us also bring Witter to the floor. So we will have some chit chat sessions as we have previously collected some questions from our participants. So we are all a youth, and then we sometimes feel that we are not that empowered, or we don't have the ability to make some great changes. So you two have shared with us how we can make some changes. But actually, do you also experience some challenges at the time, like developing the T-kits, or how to engage with different agencies when you are having to let them to know more about the filter? So would you like to share with us the challenges you have experienced before and how you have tried to manage it or overcome it? So maybe I would like to have Rita to share with us first.
Yes. So definitely, I think it's a regular thing, imposter syndrome, when you feel like people are so experienced and they know so much about a certain topic, and you're at the very beginning, you're excited about, getting involved, but it can be super intimidating knowing where to start and how to start. Um, and so that's what I really like about the Teen Prep Kit, is that there's super simple activities that break it down, that you can learn a little bit about a different topic here and there, and you can start to learn about how to become active and take a few steps into becoming more prepared for your own self, your own home, maybe your school later on, maybe your community, but really starting out at the fundamentals of learning how to do it yourself, and then becoming more confident in how you know how to approach these different topics and how to get involved, and let it organically grow from there. So it's something that I think we all deal with. Even with developing the Teen Prep Kit, it was almost a year-long initiative, trying to engage young people from across the globe to help to become involved in this project, and really hear from them what they wanted out of this toolkit, what needed to be included, what topics were important to cover, and how young people thought it was best to, how these activities would resonate best with young people as well. So those are really important. But it was definitely, I felt when I first started it that I had no idea how to approach developing a web page. I had no idea how to start approaching people about if they would be interested in it. But, sometimes you just have to feel silly when you're starting out and feel comfortable in that, basically knocking on doors and saying, hey, I have this idea. Would you like to help? Or, what advice can you give me? Would you like to become involved? And letting it grow from there. But I got rejections all over the place, sending out emails saying, hey, I have this idea of the teen prep kit. Would you like to learn more about it? Would you like to be involved? And so many times I had emails unanswered, but it's just part of it, as many of like the unanswered emails that I got trying to get people to become engaged in helping to create this toolkit, you do find, a gem every once in a while who gives you wonderful advice, who connects you with a person who they think would be super helpful in, being part of this project. And you go from there, and it's making those connections and being vulnerable and open to feeling very silly at times, but allowing that, to put yourself forward and to take the little steps at a time to make those connections is so important. And so I completely get it. It's hard to start, but the first part of being able to accomplish anything is making that first step. So, have faith in yourself and, be okay with feeling silly sometimes, but you'll be able to adapt and come up with new ideas of how to approach the challenges that will continue to come your way.
Thank you. So I think do attempt to make some agree impact to change the world, but then start with something more small, and then maybe we can just like Jaren and his team, and then to have the filter to over 40 countries. So Jaren, do you also have some experience would like to share with us?
Yeah, and all that, I think what Rita said was great. There's a lot of it's the perspective, right? The mentor. I think I want to add one more thing, which is just embrace that fear. A lot of times we think we need to be perfect before we go out. We are scared, oh, what if I screw up? What if I do this? And I think it's part of the human experience. We don't have to try to psych ourselves and say, oh, I'm not afraid, right? Because that's gonna lead to negative mental health impact. But just to acknowledge, yeah, I'm afraid, but am I passionate enough about this to want to see change that I can? So because the more you do it, actually, like what Rita says, right? The more you experience rejection, I mean, it gets easier. It's still tough each time, but it gets easier and easier to the point where you realize, it's just part of the natural process. I mean, I've also, apart from Water Room, other like social projects I've done before, it's just a lot of people just like, no, not interested. People don't like come for your activities, your events, and then you just learn through it, you just grow through it. I think what's important there is you allow that to fuel your passion. So other things I want to say, especially if you're young, is to get yourself involved, really go and like read up a lot, watch and then watch videos of other young people have done it. That's very inspiring. And then don't be afraid to talk to people who are older. You will be surprised that actually a lot of people who are older in the space, they love it when young people are passionate about it and they want to take you under the wing and mentor you. And just get yourself involved in any kind of talk, network events, build out your network. Um, because you're still in that phase where you're just growing and trying to identify yourself, trying to learn who you are. And I think meeting people along the way and just some of these connections come back to you later on, and those are really helpful.
Thank you. So we have another questions because we know that climate change is a huge humanitarian crisis, also mentioned by you too. So in the Red Cross Red Crescent movements, we're also talking about green the red in the recent years. So we try to add more green throughout the entire the movement, maybe not only or we are talking about it to mitigate the impact of it, but also maybe how we can work it in our agencies, in our mission, how to make it more green. So do you have any suggestions on how we can ensure that our programs, our projects are actually not creating harm to the environment or increasing the disaster risk to some people or some populations? How we can ensure that we are not doing the harm?
Wow, okay,
I
that's
think
quite
it
a
would be a very
big question.
yeah.
Okay, maybe I answer first. So I think with every other company out there, if you look at it not just as a like Red Cross issue, but like just about any company that's out there, especially there are a lot of companies out there that are not directly involved with the climate change issue in the sense of like carbon emissions, but they do small things like whether it's to, when they have a company lunch or buffet or whatever, reduce the consumption. So a lot of it has to do with like reduction of consumption and then recycling and all those kind of things that you hear in school. And I think that's requires a top down and bottom up approach. I think a lot of it has to do with being able to even enable certain champions within the organization to push for these initiatives. That means you need to have educational webinars and then get people who are involved and not make it look like a chore. I think that's one of the bigger challenges, right? Especially if people are not passionate about it, it might seem like a chore. But let's say I talk about Red Cross Pacific. I think recently I was at this Red Cross humanitarian conference in Singapore, and they were showcasing even some of the technologies that they use, whether it's for disaster response, rescue operations, and also water filters, and then showing that okay, this is how their partners are saving water when they are putting out fires, for example. These are the materials they use when they're building up the temporary shelters, right? They are a lot more sustainable. So it's a lot of these things where even the people you purchase from, making sure that they have their sustainability assessments and then ensuring that you're being a responsible consumer. Uh, that being said, I would say the mission of the Red Cross always has to be about humanity, and I think climate change is a part of that, but it should not derail you from the focus of saving lives, like immediate impact, because of people dying from disasters and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I think overall we are talking about humanity and we want to save life and also reduce the human suffering. So, Rita, do you also have some tips about these topics?
I just want to say, I think everything that Jaren said was perfect. I think also it's about looking at yourself too and looking at your own practices that you do at home, um, and understanding, the impact of your actions, what they have on the environment. And so I think really the biggest thing that I can stress is, becoming more knowledgeable in, your carbon footprint, and sustainability, and trying to practice more sustainable efforts in your own life. But I think it's also, feeling comfortable with having those conversations with leaders. So like if you're noticing issues, in your local Red Crescent office, saying, hey, I think like we could implement a recycling program here. Feeling comfortable to be able to, communicate that, I think would be very, the best first starting point for you. Even with the teen prep kit, all of the materials are available online. So you can kind of grab whichever activities you want, download them, use them. But we specifically didn't print out any booklets of this because we wanted it to be, accessible for people. And we didn't want to just send out materials just so that they're out there in the world. I think the real great power of the teen kit is that you can kind of pick whichever activities that you would like, and download the ones that are most relevant for you, that you're most interested in practicing. But I think it's also acknowledging, there are strengths of high tech technology, like being able to have all of these activities available online. But we also have friends who do not have access to the internet, do not have access to computers. And just because the resources are available digitally should not prevent them from being able to receive the exact same education and the resources to help them to prepare, as somebody who does have a computer and who does have internet access. So it's really working through your networks to be able to say that these are resources that are available online. What can we do to bring them into the tangible, and make sure that you can download them and print them off, so that they're reaching people who need it to be reached.
Thank you. I love the idea that you mentioned we start from ourselves first. when we also have our awareness on how are we doing some harm. Maybe we don't print that materials already have helped us to mitigate the impact. So we have the last questions. Maybe a little bit challenging because when we talk about disasters, usually maybe the system is already damaged, destroyed, and then it will be a very resources poor setting. So how can we also ensure that or promote the ideas of use different tools or technology in some setting maybe underdeveloped or have a more lower less resources or already have destroyed because of the no matter the earthquake or the flooding or because of the some extreme weather. So maybe they need some time to rebuild their community. So how can we also encourage them to use some tools or innovative ideas to create some impact? I think maybe you two can share your experience because I know you two also have some interaction with them before.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I mean,
try very challenging.
yeah, I just want to say, I think Jaren's experience is exactly that, identifying that there was an issue and getting creative. That's the best thing about preparedness is that you can identify, you say, okay, I live in an earthquake zone. What can I do to help prepare my home and myself and my family, etc., for the risks of the potential impacts, so nailing things down to the wall to make sure that they don't fall on anybody, making sure, you're practicing what to do when the trembles start, practicing emergency drills, having a plan with your family if you need to evacuate, where are you going to go? But it's also, you need to have plan A, plan B, plan C, because no matter, you can plan, you can practice, it can be a perfect 100% perfect plan and supplies ready, and disasters don't work like that. Hazards have their impact, and there's always going to be a wrench thrown into your plan, so you need to be able to be flexible. But I think having the idea of how you're going to plan for the response so that you already have ideas in motion and being able to practice it and try different scenarios of how you would respond, really pushes you to be okay when disasters hit and it all kind of crumbles and gets crazy out there, for you to start looking at situations a little bit different and thinking, okay, I have these resources, I don't have these resources, how am I going to respond in these situations? I'd love to hear from Jaren because I think it's 100% relevant to your question.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I was just gonna say is a lot of it has to do with preparedness. I mean, it depends on the question. Are you looking at from it from an organizational point of view or like an individual point of view? So what Rita was saying is a lot is very good for individual personal responsibility and responsibility for your family. Which, if you're a teenager, you're old enough to be able to take that responsibility for yourself. On organizational perspective, maybe I'll share that then. I think what's so important is really learnings. A lot of times in disaster response, it's like a lot of like, oh, we just go and do things, and it gets very messy. And and because the needs are so high, it just requires people to really capture all the observations and the learnings. And not all disasters are the same, like Rita said, and especially with climate change, things are going to get crazier. So how do you then look ahead and identify what are really the gaps and the weaknesses? And that's why I think like multi-million dollars are spent in disaster preparedness, because it's same thing with climate change. It's not just like a one-time solution. It's not just like one technology that can fix it. It's really like over-encompassing, more of an infrastructural kind of issue. So on that, I would say, let's say if I'm talking from a technology perspective, it's trying to also figure out, how do we get this technology into the hands of the people who need it most? So that sometimes can be done through a business model, or for us, work a lot of NGOs, and then try and convince them ahead of time that, if you already know this is going to happen, why don't you prepare beforehand and then make sure that, you get the tools ready? Because the tools are out there, and then it just requires someone to go and search online, find out. I think that's good thing about the internet now. You can actually find out on the different issues. So yeah, then also come the role of the businesses like myself to try to make sure that the people who need it most know about the technology that exists out there.
Thank you. So I think there's many things that we can do as an individual and also maybe in our agencies or organizations. And then we will have to remember that climate change is not something we can change it from one person, but then we have to gather other people to create the impact together. So thank you again for Rita and Jaren for joining us today. So let me have a very short promotion on our coming events. So I know that some. Can I have the screen? Thank you. So I know some people may also have some further questions may not be addressed today. So we have created a Padlet. So you can leave your questions there regarding who you would like to ask, and then we can refer the questions to our speakers. So just let us know if you have any questions, or if you have some individual questions that you don't want to show it in the Padlet, you can also send an email to us. And then we are coming to have in coming future in October and November, we have two other webinar, which will be talking about the human security and also community engagements. So if you would like to join us, just go to our social media, including the Facebook and Instagram, and then we will share with you the latest information later. So last but not least, thank you for joining us today. So if you have any questions regarding our youth lab work or our work, so you can just feel free to email us or drop a message in our social media. So thank you so much for joining us today. And we're hoping we can see you soon in the coming future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.